Instead, I spent 5 more days in the hospital where they ran a battery of tests, adjusted my meds, and made sure nothing else was fueling what was happening. And in fact, in the end, it was still just the cold that was doing all of this, that had caused all of this inflammation in and around my heart.
Hey, what's going on, folks? For today's show, we're going to watch and react to this MSNBC host who had a health scare, apparently getting myocarditis among other problems, from what she says came from the common cold.
My husband drove me to the emergency room, and from there, the nightmare that has been my January began. I was diagnosed with pericarditis, inflammation of the lining of my heart.
Well, I'm glad she seems healthier. God bless her, and I'll pray for her full return to health if she's not already there, because that's what's important. But let's watch and talk about it. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast.
The Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles, yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. So, first off, I want to say prayers up for this lady. She suffered pericarditis and myocarditis. This is an MSNBC host. Terrible stuff for anybody to go through. So I just want to say, in my kindest hearts of hearts, God bless you, and hopefully you're better, and be as respectful as possible. With that being said, no disrespect to her as a person, but I don't watch MSNBC. I'm not brainwashed. I'm not delusional. I wasn't dropped on my head. So obviously I do more entertaining and honest things than watch MSNBC. I mean, in this day and age with the internet and all sorts of resources of great stuff, who in their right mind would ever watch this network? So yeah, I didn't see this live or anything, but it's been making its rounds online. So let's react to it. Let's watch the video. And this is her full story of what happened. And she ended up getting pericarditis and myocarditis from what she claims was the common cold. Really crazy.
Well, I have been dealing with a little bit of a health scare. On December 20th, I began to feel chest pains, and they waxed and waned over a period of 10 days. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, but as they continued to get worse, I started to think something was actually wrong. It was December 30th when I finally went to an urgent care and was told I had reflux. I didn't really buy it, but I was relieved it wasn't my heart. My body, though, was pretty certain not to believe the reflux. The next day, on December 30th, I woke up with severe pains both in my chest and in my left shoulder, and it was like a tightening in my chest when I took deep breaths. That got worse when I was laying flat. I knew enough at that moment to understand that it could mean, could is the key word here, that I was having a heart attack, especially because it was happening in the left part of my shoulder. I want to remind you, I run 7 miles 3 to 4 times a week, or I did. I do yoga. I don't eat meat. I don't smoke. I drink occasionally. Not right now, though, because my doctor tells me I can't. Aside from probably not getting enough sleep and working too much, I'm a pretty healthy person. But on that day, I was anything but. My husband drove me to the emergency room, and from there, the nightmare that has been my January began. I was diagnosed with pericarditis, inflammation of the lining of my heart, brought on by a virus, a literal common cold. I also had fluid around my heart that had to be drained, or else it could hinder the beating of my heart. I was hospitalized for 4 nights and transferred from a local hospital to NYU Langone here in New York City. On January 4th, I was finally discharged after doctors drained the fluid around my heart, and I bounced out of the hospital. I couldn't get out of there fast enough with the hopes I was on the mend. But that was not the end. 3 days later, I was readmitted when I felt a flutter in my heart, like a butterfly. It was inside my chest. They determined I had developed myocarditis, inflammation of the actual heart now, the heart muscle. I remember being shepherded through the emergency room and wondering, is this it? It wasn't, thank God. Instead, I spent 5 more days in the hospital where they ran a battery of tests, adjusted my meds, and made sure nothing else was fueling what was happening. And in fact, in the end, it was still just the cold that was doing all of this, that had caused all of this inflammation in and around my.
Wow. So that's an MSNBC host who got pericarditis and then myocarditis. And I can't believe she's not blaming COVID-19 specifically. It sounds like she's just blaming the common cold, or her doctors told her that, or someone told her that. Obviously, she's not a doctor, so she's listening to somebody, that the common cold gave her myocarditis and pericarditis. I haven't done the full research, so I'm going to be as honest as I could possibly be. Has this happened like in the past a lot before COVID and the Operation Warp Speed stuff? Is this normal? Like rare? I mean, what is the thing that like the common cold can destroy your heart in that way? That's what they're telling us now. I mean, what's to really say besides thoughts and prayers? That's rough to go through. And I'm going to use a hypothetical because that's all you really can do. Hypothetically, right? I'm not saying that this happened, but obviously mainstream media, NBC News, everybody reported last year that it was rare. We're not saying it's common, but rare. That the COVID vaccines, one of the side effects, they had to add a warning of myocarditis and pericarditis. They said it happens a few days after the booster shot or whatever. It's very rare and it's not that bad, but it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying this is that. I have no idea. This could have been caused by the common cold, as our doctor said. But in general, I'm using a hypothetical here. Hypothetically, if an MSNBC host did get injured by the vaccine, I'm not saying she did. Hypothetically, if she did, do you think they would ever admit it? Is that even a possibility? Does anybody think if that happened that they'd be like, hey, yeah, that happened, but it's rare and it won't happen to you, but it's rare, but it happens. I mean, the common cold causing those things has to be pretty rare too. I think hundreds of millions of people get the common cold every year without getting myocarditis. So that is also seems to be pretty rare if that happened to her, and seems pretty odd. And I'm just going to play this clip real quick. I'm not saying it has anything to do with this lady, but recently Dr. Fauci went on television to tell you what Damar Hamlin's heart condition wasn't or what didn't cause it. Of course, he didn't really provide, or the doctors didn't provide any sort of transparency about what did cause it or how this freak accident happened. But Dr. Anthony Fauci was also confronted with the problem, or I guess the rare instance of this sort of thing. And he admitted that it is a rare instance. I'm not saying this is what that was, but this did air on CBS a couple weeks ago rather, and it's worth playing.
That's what happens when disinformation disincentivizes people to get proper interventions for a threat like a pandemic.
And in some of these instances, as you well know, Dr. Fauci, there is some shred of evidence myocarditis was related to vaccines. It is a heart issue. I'm not a doctor. You are. That's a shred of evidence.
A very small shred, right.
And explain how then this can get conflated.
Of course. In a very, very rare case, some of the mRNA vaccines can cause a self-limiting, almost invariably benign, inflammatory response in the heart, which generally resolves in a very short period of time.
He said that, not me, okay? So for the loser gremlin fact checkers on social media that I'm sure hate this video, Fauci said that. I did not, okay? He admitted that in CBS News, the FDA, NBC News. It's everywhere. Everyone knows it, okay? With that being said, I would love to see the shred of evidence that says that the common cold causes myocarditis and pericarditis, because I understand that there's a shred of evidence that that's a vaccine side effect and it should be just completely ignored and writ off for the most part. Sure. Can we see the shred of evidence that shows that common colds rarely cause myocarditis and pericarditis? Because I'm interested now. I mean, that's what's more common than the common cold. I think everybody should see the evidence of how that could cause it or what type of freak accident happens in the body. Because it's interesting. I would love to see that transparent information. Not saying it doesn't exist. I just haven't seen it. With that being said, I'm just going to say this real quick as I end it. God bless this MSNBC host. I'm not in the position to tell you what caused your myocarditis and pericarditis. I'm not going to. And let's just assume for the sake of this video on Facebook and YouTube that you're totally right. It was the common cold that caused it. Here's what I'm going to say. If it were, in a hypothetical alternate reality, caused by a pharmacy product that they mandated on the population, would they ever admit that? Personally, I think they wouldn't. I don't think they're genuine enough. I don't think they're authentic enough. And I don't think they have any reason to admit that. And I feel like it seems like on social media, and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Maybe not Twitter that much anymore, but in sports leagues and with celebrities, it's like there's a giant cover-up aspect to act like this rare occurrence doesn't exist. Well, rare means it does exist. So when Anthony Fauci says it's rare, that it's probably similar to as rare as the common cold causing myocarditis isn't rare though, but we'll talk. So the point that I'm getting is even if it's a small amount, whatever that amount is, it does exist. And there's a concerted effort to basically cover that up. And the reason that they're able to get away with this is through the PrEP Act liability shield. Some vaccines are covered under the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act that passed in the 80s under Reagan in Congress, which says that if it's one of the scheduled childhood vaccines, this is a fact, that Big Pharma has no lawsuit liability for side effects, injuries, and deaths. Before that, Big Pharma was in a lot of trouble because when you're giving out vaccines to hundreds of millions of people, even if it is a small number, some people are going to get injured, have side effects, and have rare occurrences of death. That's just the truth with a lot of medications. So Big Pharma wasn't doing so hot. They needed Congress to pass them a liability shield and said, if we're going to give these to hundreds of millions of children and something happens to some of the kids, we can't be paying this out in court. Excuse me, we can't be paying this out in court. So we need a liability shield. And then after that, when George Bush was in office, they passed the PrEP Act, the PREP Act, which said under an emergency that if there's some sort of experimental or some sort of rushed or some sort of like new technology that goes out, you know, government, Big Pharma, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, they're not paying for side effects, injuries, and liability either. So since this one I don't believe is protected under the Childhood National Vaccine Injury Act, the NCVIA, because it's not been out long enough, maybe eventually it will. I know they're pushing for it. But this one, you know, the Pfizer, the Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson, which was rolled out at warp speed, it was protected under the PrEP Act, which says that in an emergency, any sort of medication, no matter how new or old it is, rushed, whatever, they're not going to pay for side effects, injuries, and deaths. So personally, I'm not saying this is that. I have no idea. And, you know, you could talk to your local doctor or whoever you trust. But all I'm saying is they can say whatever they want because they don't have liability. Like say, I'm just going to use an example in my head. This is just totally made up. Say there were 100 kids who got injured or 1,000 people that got injured by the COVID vaccine. If they had to pay for it in court, everybody would know about it. There'd be reports saying they lost in court, they lost in court. And then it would be like, well, the courts have decided that that person was telling the truth and Big Pharma made a mistake. But since they have no liability in court, Big Pharma, Fauci, everybody can just say whatever they want and just act like everything doesn't exist because there is no liability clause for them to have to pay this out in court. So they're basically able to say whatever they want. They could act like it doesn't exist. They could act like it's super, super, super rare if it's only super, super rare. You know, I mean, how are we ever going to know unless these go to court? So we'll see what happens when the PrEP Act you know, disappears, if it ever does. I know it's not fully bulletproof, but it is pretty good. And you have Biden basically extending the emergency past May. It's in May now. He's already pushing it out to May. The COVID emergency is going till May. And one of the things the emergency does is provide a liability shield for Big Pharma. So it's, you know, all I'm saying is I would love for that liability shield to be taken away. That's all I'm saying. Because then in court, if, you know, this happens to more people and they think it came from something else, they can settle that and figure it out versus just saying it doesn't exist and just saying other stuff. So just completely unrelated to this sort of thing. Let me know what you think, and I'm going to do my research later today and really try to look up the history of the common cold and myocarditis and pericarditis and try to find any sort of connection there and see if, like, you know, a couple of years ago, if this was happening and if it's going to happen more, because that sounds like pretty odd to me. And in my opinion, I don't know the truth, so I'm going to be honest about it, but I'm shocked she didn't blame COVID-19. You get what I'm saying? If she's like, because they've said that before. I know a soccer player in Canada got myocarditis and he had to sit out. He had heart inflammation. They said it was COVID-19. You know what I'm saying? They've been doing that to a lot of people. So I'm just kind of shocked that the doctors or whoever, and maybe they told her for a reason, but I'm shocked that they didn't say it was COVID-19, and like maybe she just didn't have COVID-19 or didn't have it in the time that her heart got inflamed. So it's just like, oh, it wasn't that because you didn't have it. It was the common cold. Like, wow, it's just wild to me that they didn't tell her it was COVID-19. They told her it was a common cold. That's almost like now what? If you watch MSNBC, you're going to be freaking out thinking that the common cold might inflame your heart and the lining around your heart. I mean, let's hope that doctors do their job and look into this, because it's alarming either way. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. That's my take for today. Prayers to everybody, and regardless of who you are and what medical decisions you made, this is just my personal perspective. Like a lot of media, they scare you, they scare you, they scare you. I'm not trying to scare anybody, whether you get products or not. You know, fear is it can add stress and hurt you, impact your health anyway. So regardless of what decisions you made, don't buy into the fear either way, okay? Because I feel like the television is basically like a big fear tube. It's like fear, 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 fear. And then you go to the commercials, pharmacy, 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 fear, 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 war, 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 give politicians money. It's almost like they're scaring people into some sort of marketing campaign when you watch left-wing or right-wing television media, because the whole thing's so scary. You notice how they never say, here's the problem, we're going to solve it? Like Rochelle Walensky was like freaking out during the pandemic. Oh my God, impending doom, impending doom, impending doom. It's like, lady, you're the CDC director. What you're supposed to do is come on looking fly like me and say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Maybe throw on some shades, be like, listen, my name's Rochelle Walensky and I got it all under control. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah, it's going to be a little crazy. Yeah, some people are going to get sick, but I'm the CDC director and I'm here to tell you, this is why they pay me the big bucks. This is why they hire me. We're going to do this together. Don't fear. Don't worry. While you're stuck at home, let's exercise and really watch ourselves, because we don't want, you know, a bunch of people getting fatter and the kids that get fatter while we're all stuck inside and we can't exercise. You know, that's what the CDC director is supposed to do. Not like, impending doom, go get your pharmacy products, impending. And then you watch like MSNBC and they're like, World War III, nuclear war, Donald Trump is going to hurt your family. Oh my God, the LGBTQs are aborting the, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go vote for Donald. I got to go vote for Joe Biden. I'm shit. Like, you know, they just like scare you into a pharmacy pill and scare you into the ballot. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to abort my kid. I can abort my kid and make him transfer. I don't vote for Biden. And then you watch, like, you know, sometimes Fox News and they're just like, oh my God, everything's so bad, the Democrats are screwing this over, give me money. Oh my God, pharmacy bills in the commercial, aren't you scared? It's like, hey, let's calm it down. You know, government officials, you're there to do your job. If you're so freaking out about your own job, maybe it's time to sit down and get somebody else to do it that isn't so scared to do their job. Life is tough. It's never been easy. Stop scaring people. Left-wing media, right-wing, same thing too. So regardless of what medical decisions you made, regardless of if you've got the common cold or not, you know, don't buy into the fear. Understand that fear can add stress, and stress can really weaken the body. So it's really weird that they're always trying to stress everybody out. We don't do that here. God bless you. Appreciate you. That's the story of the day. Hopefully they don't bother it. I mean, this is what social media does, though. I mean, I got banned from TikTok for things that if I was in front of a court, I could prove are 100% true. I've gotten videos with Bill Gates with 8-9 million views on Facebook taken down, and nothing was incorrect. I didn't lie about Bill Gates. I showed videos. I was honest. I was even keeled. I didn't just make up stuff he never said or doesn't think. And it got deleted. And here's the crazy part before I leave. Bill Gates, apparently a video or an article came out where Bill Gates said that he had talked to Facebook and basically pressured them to take some of these videos down. I'm convinced, I don't know this for sure, but I wish Elon Musk would buy Facebook, because I would be shocked if Bill Gates possibly didn't tell them to take down one of my videos, like him directly telling Facebook, take down that anomaly video, because I don't like it. And I'm not talking, I mean, other conspiracy theories, yeah, some people lie about Bill Gates and make up dumb stuff and they exaggerate. I don't do that. So why did my video get deleted on Facebook and YouTube? It's like, if you challenge the narrative, if you challenge Big Pharma, if you show receipts, even if you hold up like FDA warnings that they have to put on the products, all of a sudden you can't say that. You know, I'm very accurate with my reporting. So, you know, anytime you talk about this type of stuff in any sort of way, they look for a way to silence it, like deactivate you in some way. And just sharing that. God bless you. God bless your family. Check out the Dream Rare podcast, streaming everywhere. All my links are in the bio, dreamrarelinks.com. Thanks to everybody signing up to my free email list. I appreciate it. And we got new black beanies in stock at dreamrare.com. Have a good day, folks, and let me know what you think in the comment section. But remember, they're going to probably try to blame me for what you're saying, which is fine. I'm not going to silence you anyway. I'm just saying, have a good one. I'll be back soon.